Hey kids, comics. Silver-haired Bronze Age babe here, yakking about her comic book collection on a live dive. This is my friend York, for the you Shakespeare fans. Actually, it is not. I have another friend who is here to join us for this discussion of our favorite ghost-related stories. That would be my friend Rob. Rob. There he is.
Alas, poor Rob, you knew me well.
I did. I thought I was doing well just having decorations behind me, but Rob has done something far more in depth, and I want to thank him for that, for getting into the, dare I say, spirit of it. Oh, no, come on. So it is, oh my God, it is 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
Cheers.
You know what that means? It's cocktail hour, and my friend Rob has the Swamp Thing tumbler from my friend Luxinda Swirl, who is here in the chat.
It's beautiful. I love it. I ordered it on Etsy because I was like, I should check out. And then I saw the video where Lucinda Swirl made this. She used a green tumbler, and I just love the colors that she chose for this.
Yep.
It's absolutely wonderful. I had coffee in it earlier.
Yep.
This is water now. It's because I was saying before our show began, I'm like, I didn't realize that being dead would be so warm. I mean, I realized that it's one of two possibilities, but I just thought it would happen to somebody else.
Yeah.
So this is quite warm, and you need to stay hydrated.
Oh, nice.
But
Perfect.
actually, I do have another costume for you, and I would have gotten away from it if it hadn't been for those kids.
Oh my goodness. Fantastic. There you go.
I one time wore, this is like, all right, so I one time wore this costume. It was like a half-ass costume. It's sort of Kato Kaelin-ish, right?
Yes.
And I went into the party, and everybody's like, "What are you?" And I said, "I am the Golden Age Ghostbuster." And they were like, "Is that a thing?" And I was like, "No," but I came up with this whole backstory that before Egon and Ray and everybody else. But this is an Amy Mann concert T-shirt because I'm a huge Amy Mann whore.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just what I normally wear.
Just hanging around. That's how I know him. I've never known him without any of that face stuff on. It's just the way we do it. Golly. Well, before we get into the subject,
and I do have a proper drink.
Good.
Caramel vodka, and apple cider. So cheers.
Very autumnal of you.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah, so that's what he's drinking. I've got an amber ale to celebrate the autumn that has fallen upon us. And so before we start, let's say hi to the people in the chat. You all, Magic Lasso wins the early bird catches the worm award because Magic was in the chat when I logged on to try and figure out all this stuff about a half hour ago. So Magic, thank you for joining us and sticking with us until we actually hit the live button. He was followed within moments from Just a Rican in his comics. That's Rod, who I have said it before, I'll say it again. The only reason that you're seeing any of my videos or Rob and I doing this kind of thing every now and then is because Rod mentioned me on his Sunday show talking about new comic channels that need some love. And man, you have Rod's imprimatur on it, and you will find greatness. So I will always be thankful to Just a Rican in his comics. My friend Luxinda Swirl is here, the maker of that fine Swamp Thing mug. And I also understand from Luxinda that she has sold another of the Superman tumblers. So people are finding her, and gulp, gulp, gulp. Ranger Sly's here. Hello, Ranger. Good to see you. So there we go. I think we're ready.
Well, Magic Lasso has a question.
Oh, already? I skipped
for both
by
you
it.
and I. I don't know, maybe you can just put it on the screen, but it says, I have a
So,
question.
there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was your favorite Halloween costume as a child? Sarah, do you know that one?
I do. It was a ghost. It was, believe it or not, it was a sheet over my, neck, but it had like a funny ghost mask. And
Okay.
so I just thought I was hip and hopping. I really loved it. And I had a pirate costume that I was forced to wear for several years, and I never liked it, but it took a while for me to outgrow it, apparently, to grow out of it. So anyway, so what was yours, Rob?
I'm embarrassed to say that I had a couple of recurring costumes. When I was really little, my mom, who made that ceramic pumpkin over here by my shoulder, she made a pumpkin costume. So I would walk around with a pumpkin. And you just stuff it full of things. Now, that was not my favorite costume. The costume that I would also do recurring for almost like every Halloween. It sounds so cliche, but I was Dracula. I love vampires. I love Dracula. Bela Lugosi, Christopher Lee. I mean, I became a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan later in life. I love vampires. So
yeah. Halloween has always been a favorite holiday. You don't have to buy gifts. I love ghosts. The whole thing is it's right up my alley. And so that's why comic books, and comic books seem to lend themselves perfectly to these kinds of stories, and which is why we're here. So we're just going to talk about our favorite Halloween-inspired comics or runs from our collections. We'll see what we come up with, and if you guys have in the chat have any favorites that you want to suggest, I'm all ears. Because I've said it before, I have a pen, a piece of paper, I write things down, and I go get stuff. So Rob, do you want to start us off with
sure
a series?
Well, this is not a series. This is sort of, for me, a one-shot. Now, it's funny. You often talk about how I bring you into the modern age. I dive back into the Bronze Age with one of these classics. I bought this. I didn't realize it was a Neil Adams. I think you and I had a conversation a few weeks ago, and I was like, I don't think I have any Neil Adams. And you're like, that's wrong.
Yes, you do.
And I love this. I love this cover. I love the scale, actually, because even though at this point Dick Grayson is in college and you see him, and I'm going to flip through this, but this story, Magic Lasso said, what a great Batman cover. I actually love the scale because this Robin looks like a child, like younger. Even he doesn't look like, and it's partly because of the Reaper. This is the Night of the Reaper story. This is Batman number 237 from October. Well, it says December, but it was on the newsstands for October. It's the haunting Halloween novel. This is number 237 and from 1971. Now, what happens is right away, I love this splash page with, we were talking about vampires, and this is Batman with a stake through the heart right there at the beginning. I love that visual image. This was an idea by Bernie Wrightson with assist from Harlan Ellison, written by Denny O'Neil, the late Denny O'Neil, with art by Neil Adams and Dick Giordano. It is gorgeous. And what happens is that Batman and Dick Grayson go to Rutland, Vermont, where a real life man named Tom Fagan would host a superhero costume parade. And so you can see this costume. This is another great double spread. You'll notice that there's some Marvel characters in the background that they.
Yes.
This is right. This is right before National Publications sold itself to Warner Brothers. But yeah, there was right by Hawkman. There is Havoc and Quicksilver and Captain America, and so Dick Grayson is here. He's one of the boys, and he's going out there, and they're looking for a party, and suddenly somebody gets attacked, who I believe is wearing a Robin costume. Yeah, and it's not Dick Grayson wearing the Robin costume, but rather it's just one of the attendees of the parade. But Batman happens to be in there, and he's tracked down the Reaper. Again, there's kind of that that picture from the cover.
Just great. Just great.
Who he was deaing with the well, do you want to explain it? Who's dealing?
Yeah,
with,
basically it's let me join the conversation here. You don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read it and wants to, but let's just say Nazis. I mean, come on, please. You've got Halloween, you've got Denny O'Neill's story, you've got Neil Adams cover and story art, and you've got Nazis.
And you've got Marvel characters.
Marvel characters in a Halloween parade.
I mean, you've got Havoc passed out on the couch. You've got Spider-Man and Thor. And then I just love the forlorn guy who's dressed as Solomon Grundy.
Right, exactly. It's funny. There's so many visual puns in this thing that it's, in and of itself, it is a fantastic classic book. It just really is. And Ranger Sly mentions Rob. Let's see. Rob has a strong start with a classic Batman cover and story. Indeed, if there's only one Batman story from the Bronze Age you ever want to read one, it's this one. I would say it's remarkable. Now, the interesting thing about this story, Rob, is it inspires what?
So the very next year, so this parade is a real life parade in Rutland, Vermont, and the very following year in 1972, Len Wein, Steve Englehart, and Jerry Conway. These were all names of guys who wrote comics in the Bronze Age for DC and for Marvel. And so they end up going into what is actually the first sort of unofficial DC Marvel crossover that begins in Amazing Adventure 16 with the Beast. It continues. Some people kind of, I kind of feel like the Thor is next, but when I read it, but
no, it's actually, it goes Beast, JLA, and then Thor.
Yeah, JLA 103, and then Thor. And what happens here is the characters, right away from the beginning, the Beast hitch a ride with these hippies named Len, Steve, and Jerry, and Len's wife, Glennis. And it's just these characters, these four characters all carry over those three issues. While this parade, this Halloween parade, is the backdrop for these three stories. And what ends up happening is, like, at one point, Len's wife is wearing a Supergirl costume, which you see quite a bit in this JLA thing, because the Felix Faust is involved, and this is where the Phantom Stranger shows up. Yep. Is this the first time? This is a question I'm not sure about, so I'm going to ask you or the chat.
Okay.
Is this the first time the Phantom Stranger starts to kind of become a recurring team up with the JLA?
Yes. Yeah, because at the end of the story, they're like, "Hey, do you want to join us?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, you're silly club." So yeah, I think that's why it's. I think it's kind of considered, and I'm going to hold up mine because, of course, I have all these. What do you take me for? So yeah, I think
you got these after I told you that this was kind of a crossover, right?
It's like you had mentioned it to me, and then I watched a video. Metabrog had a wonderful discussion about it. I'm like, oh, Rob was telling me about that, and so off to the eBay I went, and I'm so glad I did, because it's inspired by one of the greatest comics. And then,
well, there's an editor's note in here too, because at one point one of the guys says, "Oh, I had a weird time at the Halloween parade last year when the Reaper shows up," and it says, "Editor's note, Batman 237." Yep. So the Night of the Reaper.
Well, and my understanding is that the characters in the comic book, Steve, Jerry, Len, and Glennis, who are the creators of, they all worked for or with both companies over their careers. They didn't tell at corporate that they were doing these three books.
No.
And so that's why the fact that it's this unofficial first kind of story crossovers, because they decided to make it happen. And snuck in right underneath their noses. So yeah, you see all sorts of costumes of characters from other companies. So I was telling Rob beforehand that I dug these out and I reread them this week, and I am going to tell you that you just look at this art in all of these books; they're just fantastic. But I really like the Beast. This little DC gal is like, this is a cool character. So of course I'm on eBay looking and like, well, what should I get? I really was like, this is interesting to me. So I'm going to be spending money on that. And the Justice League, I was mentioning to Rob again that like, oh God, I wish I liked them more. I love the covers of the JLA books of this era. I have several in my collection, but the stories just, you have to divide the team and you have to send one's doing this and three are doing that. And I'm like, and finally.
And I should say that this is for anyone who likes, these stories, this is the Beast versus Juggernaut.
Yes, Juggernaut I even knew who that was because of the movies, right? Wasn't he in the movies?
Well, I don't know if he was in the X-Men movies. I haven't seen those X-Men movies in a long time. So somebody in the chat could probably correct me there.
Both characters were familiar to me, so it must have been from the cinema. And the other thing that I really appreciated with the Thor is like, oh, that's Loki. I know who he is from the movie. And what I didn't realize about Thor comics is the delightful Shakespearean overwrought dialogue that Thor and his compatriots just kind of pronounce to each other over and over again throughout the book. I had a ball reading this thing. In fact, all three of these books, I just had a ball going through them, and they are worth it to dig them out of your collection if you haven't read them for a while, or add them to your collection because it's really I don't know if it's important comic book history, but it's cool comic book history.
It's kind of cool that they have these recurring characters that like I said, Beast hitch a ride in the car, Steve Englehart's car, and they talk about like what a junker it is. Yeah. And then Faust steals the car. And, this Loki spread, it's Loki and Absorbing Man. They show up and fight Thor. This is actually my only Thor comics. I've never.
Mine too. Well, I do have a large one. I have one of those big treasury editions that I was going to give to my nephew, and he was like, I don't want it. So I need to dig that out and read it because like I say, I just had a ball. So, So, aren't we on the same page, Rob? We actually both dug those out. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, and I dig this art. I mean, this Loki here, I dig the anguish. Our four characters who've crossed over, they're on the page here talking about their car again. I mean, it's a cute, if you like DC Marvel crossovers, and I do. I actually like. There's a Teen Titans Uncanny X-Men. It's just fun. I gotta say, I actually do like this era Justice League. I like.
I'm an outlier. Don't. Now I love the covers. I love the way they look. I just cannot get through their stories because it's like, oh my God. It's like Charlie's Angels. There's two sentences and three people have to have a line. You know what I mean? Yeah. So hark, who goes there?
So for anyone, just to recap, we've talked about Batman 237, which is sort of affiliated, but not. Again, this is Amazing Adventures 16. JLA 103, and then Thor number 207. So if you're looking for that crossover or just good Bronze Age Halloween comics, these are so much fun.
Yeah, they really are. In the chat, I see the Jackson Roy Kirk has showed up. Hello, Jackson. Listen, the party continues. We're glad you're here. We don't care that you're late. It doesn't matter. And Caleb. Late. Yeah, fashionably. Caleb Leland is here as well. Again, we don't care. That lateness doesn't matter because guess what we've been doing?
More drinking.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. So am I up now? Is it my...
You can, yeah, if you
Okay.
want to go.
All right. How about, I'll make myself big. How about some Superman and ghosts?
Ooh.
So I looked through my collection, and I was after some Superman and ghost stories. And I was surprised at how many there were. This is issue number 129. It's from 1959. And you can see it's the story is The Ghost of Lois Lane.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, I love the cover because it's purple. Because I love purple. And green, you know, how ghosts were always, you know, the use of green for the spiritual, supernatural stuff. I was like, I'm all over it.
Like Slimer.
The story is great. I mean, it really is. Superman accidentally he thinks he kills her, but he actually just sent her into another realm, and through a magic typewriter, she comes back. The other reason this book is really cool is that it's the first appearance of Lori Lemaris, the mermaid. Yeah, I was reading through
DC's
it the other
Little
day.
Mermaid.
Exactly. So it's a wonderful book, and here's another look, purple. This is from
green.
I think and green. This is from '66, I think. You know, a lot of stories about ghosts are actually about you know, fraudulent psychics who are, you know, supposedly doing that kind of thing. So, but it's a fun story too. Now, my favorite of purple and green. This is number 214. I think it's from '69. Let's see if I can get this without glare. This is a Neil Adams cover. Ghosts That Haunted Superman. And I can't get enough of that cover. I think it's great. It's a good story because I love Metallo. And I don't know enough about the big guy Zavam to make, you know, any commentary, but how Superman solves this, it works out fine, although it's so Superman. There's just a moral at the end of the story that it, you know, that is like, but you know, it's Superman in the late '60s, so you get a little moralizing in there. Lois Lane had a ghost.
Okay.
This is This Ghostly Suitor. This is from 1971, I think, and this is a fun story too. The ghost in question. I'm gonna ruin it for you. It's Jack the Ripper.
Ooh.
Now, doesn't it make you want to read it? Right?
Does she marry Jack the Ripper?
He wants to marry her.
Wow.
So, but see, now you're gonna race out to see if you can. And it's for those of you who want to race out and get it. It's number 108, and it has a really good Rose and Thorn story in it. Where Thorn is also like in a coffin for half of the time. So perfect for
very Kill Bill Volume 2.
Yeah, exactly. How about Action, number 379? The Revenge of the Eliminator. This story was in a compendium of Superman and the Supernatural, like one of those little mini digest books. Good story. The thing with Superman and ghosts, though,
is that a Neil Adams cover? Sorry, just it kind of looks like a Neil Adams Superman, but I wasn't sure.
I think it might be. She says, "I'm not sure."
I don't know.
It must be. Why else would I have it?
Well,
I don't know.
Superman.
I like Superman. But my Action Comics collection is the numbers aren't exactly sequential, so you know. But I guess it does look like him. But the ghosts generally aren't ghosts. In Superman, he has to figure out what is happening, and it's not really, otherworldly, which Batman, on the other hand, can have some otherworldly elements in those stories, but not Superman. He's just too logical to have that happen. Now, this is one of my all-time favorite covers. With Superman carrying his own head.
Wow.
Yeah. Clark is in merry old England, and so it's a story about someone who was locked up in a castle. I'll just say that. It's fun. It's short. It's a very short story. It's actually not even the lead story in the book. But
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but you know what? That image is just, if that doesn't scream cover to you,
Yeah.
So.
Well, but also it looks like he's coming through the wall because there's like the brick marks are in front of him, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
So the mystery is who done it? How is he doing it? Why? So this actually does have some spectral elements to it. It isn't like somebody, figuring out a tactical way to make this happen. This actually, there is some element of the spooky in there. Now, finally, in my Superman collection, I found 2 books and reread them this week that I adore. Jimmy Olsen, the Jack Kirby issues. Okay, you got your vampire, you got your Wolfman, and you got that Jack Kirby. Come on.
That vampire almost looks like it was like, Tim Curry from Rocky Horror.
Yes. Yeah, it's Count some Dragulan or something from Transylvania. You know what I mean? And it's a 2-parter because it finishes up
with more green ghosts. Wow.
Yeah, and it's very cool. Again, they're not really ghosts. Jack Kirby has fashioned a story wherein these characters come from a planet that was manufactured by a mad scientist gone bad. And it's a tiny, tiny, tiny planet. And in order to keep the populace happy, he kept the planet in his lab, and he projected movies around. So instead of Sky, they were looking at horror movies from the 1930s. So they became those characters over generations because that's what they saw over and over again. So I don't know. There's a lot of layers to Jack Kirby. So anyway, that is some ghostly stuff from Superman.
Well, and I think you did, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have a video probably way back from when you first started this with Lois Lane as a witch on a cover, right?
Oh,
isn't that like one of the first Lois Lane?
Well, that's the first issue of Lois Lane when she's flying. I don't have that because that's like thousands of dollars. But yeah, so but Lois Lane has always been referred to as like there's a one issue where she's the witch on wheels. She's on a motorcycle, so but they aren't going for the ghost or the Halloween motif on that. I think they're going for something else. But so yeah, none of the Superman world doesn't spend a lot of time in the supernatural. Batman, which is sort of kind of does sometimes.
It's sort of surprising because magic is one of Superman's weaknesses, right? Like it's kryptonite and magic.
Right.
So it feels like if I was Felix Faust, if I was the Spook, if I was whomever, it feels like I should be attacking Superman. Which is why in some ways, like if I were to ever write like a Justice League Dark, which is kind of like the magic occult team of the Justice League. I don't know if you know about this, but it's like Zatanna and John Constantine.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they lately have had Wonder Woman. I would swap out Wonder Woman for Amethyst, and I would, or Nubia. I would make Nubia, like,
Nubia.
And then like that'd be a way to kind of bring her into a team book. and instead of like having like, you know, every Justice League has a Superman, I would actually, since Superman can't do anything with magic, and you have a magical Superman called Shazam, like I feel like he should be part of the team. And I would just
Yeah.
love to see like John Constantine and Billy Batson. I just feel like that would be like a weird team up. But yeah, that's
match made in weirdo heaven.
yeah. It's funny you mentioned Superman. You asked me if like, oh, can I slip into Superman? And I was like, of course, because I don't have a lot of Halloween comics, but this one was particularly a favorite of mine. It is from the New 52. It's Action Comics number 13, appropriate number. It is. It came out in October of 2012, and I was living in Boston. That was my first year in Boston. And that Halloween in Boston, that was when the East Coast was getting hit by Hurricane Sandy. Mm-hmm. And so I remember like sitting there with this hurricane raging outside, reading this. And this is, what I love about it is that it opens up with this very sci-fi spread. And it says, it was Halloween on the planet Krypton, although no one knew and no one had ever called it that. But if Halloween is the night when the door between seen and unseen worlds opens wide, then that night was Halloween on Krypton. And it proceeds, and the artist is Travel Foreman, who at the time was doing Animal Man, and it was a very kind of horror take on Animal Man in the New 52. But what ends up happening, of course, is that these ghosts are the Phantom Zone.
Okay. And, okay. Yep.
So it's very much in like, you know, this, like you said, like Superman doesn't really tiptoe into the supernatural, but you can just see like you wouldn't have seen that kind of a ghostly horror image. You know, this is the Ghost in the Fortress of Solitude. Is the name of the issue.
Okay.
And it's just really cool. And actually, when it opens up and then it later continues, the narration continues. It was Halloween in the Fortress of Solitude. Trick or treat, Superman. And
cool.
it's a fun issue. And then what I love about this issue is now you don't care for good old Crypto, but like the Phantom Stranger shows up in the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
And Superman meets Crypto, his childhood dog.
Okay.
And,
all right.
You know, once again, the Phantom Stranger shows up, and it's so much fun. And then there's later, you know, like then it talks about how Krypton explodes, and you know, there's this ghost that's always sort of with, you know, the ghost of Crypto is always sort of with Superman, which I just love. I don't know why, but I love that, and it just, you'll believe a grown man can cry.
Yeah. What number is that again, Rob?
Action Comics number 13.
Okay, well, I should remember. Okay.
Written by Grant Morrison with art by Travel Foreman, and it's just it's a fun done in one. And I read it, like I said, on Halloween with a hurricane raging outside, and
perfect.
You know, Phantom Zone. I was totally into it. Phantom Stranger, Phantom Zone. I just loved it. So
yeah. Well, the chat is on fire. We're going back to the Lois Lane on a broomstick because everyone's talking about Bewitched.
Okay.
Bewitched, and Magic Lasso is talking about all the names ending with A: Samantha, Endora, Esmeralda, Serena, Tabitha, Clara.
I never noticed that.
Me neither. It's like, oh, duh.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So the Mastodon is here. Hello. Thank you for joining us. We're glad you're here. And we are, my friend Rob and I are yakking about our favorite Halloween related stories and books. And
drinking. I hope you're drinking with us.
Oh yeah. Yeah. By the way, cheers to all of you. Thank goodness. How else are you going to get through a pandemic without, you know? If I'm going to stare into a screen every day, I might as well be doing stuff like this, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And once again, they're listing the Swamp Thing cover.
Yeah, listen.
We're not talking Swamp Thing in this one, I don't think, unless you're going to surprise me.
No, I don't have that. But my friend Luxinda Swirl, who's in the chat and has a fantastic YouTube channel here and an Etsy store elsewhere on the interwebs, makes these one-of-a-kind items and I think she'll even do some special, one and dones for you if you want. So Comic Crack, I cannot just say, How great is your name? I like it. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Thanks.
And LaRasa is here as well.
LaRasa, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by, as they say. And Mastodon is drinking in spirit. No pun intended. Well, listen, we intend puns here, so keep them coming. Okay, so I'm going to talk about books that I read this week that I thought I'd like, but I don't. I'm going to make myself big so you can see
Go ahead. Yeah.
what I'd talk about. Okay, so Batman, we were yammering about Batman and how he seems to, that character has an affinity for the supernatural and ghosts more than Superman may. This is Bronze Age stuff. This is from 72, 73, maybe.
Okay.
This is the first appearance of the bad guy known as the Spook. And so it's in Detective Comics, and you're thinking, great, is that just, this is a match made in heaven. And the story continues in the next issue of Detective Comics. And that's a lovely ghostly cover as well. I love how they put the green on the
on the logo, yeah.
On the logo. Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic.
And those are Jim Aparo?
I think so. And I think this for sure is. And I'm not sure. I think so. It looks like him, doesn't it?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And then it's actually a trilogy that is wrapped up in one of my all-time favorite books from childhood, Batman. There we go. I bought it at Mills Pharmacy. People know. I remember buying it off the spinner rack. This is number 252.
I didn't know that issue was connected to those other two detective issues.
I didn't either until I reread them this week. It's like, oh my God. So, which tells you the good part of how comic books used to do their thing. There was enough backstory in this for this little 11-year-old to follow along and really like the story.
Yeah.
But here's why it kind of fell flat for me. The Spook, he is not a ghost. He is, he used to be a civil engineer who designed the state-of-the-art prison in Gotham, but somehow he went bad, and he decided to turn into the Spook to actually become an insurance agent.
What?
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. He sells insurance to criminals who are going to get into the prison, and he sells insurance that I will be able to get you out.
Okay.
Yawn. I mean, and half of the story arc is Batman figuring out how the levers and pulleys work, and it's just like, it's dull. You have this fantastic character that has so many options and opportunities, and this is still, if you have to read a Spook story, read this one, because it'll fill you in on what you need to know about his life as an engineer and then an insurance agent. But the big story is the backstory about how he escaped the electric chair in the past. And that's really good. And I really liked it as a kid, still like it. And then I did some research and I found that the Spook showed up again in 1976 in Batman number 276. And again, hey, look, green and purple.
I love it.
Hey, are we sensing a theme?
Yeah.
And this is equally dull. It's like, look, the insurance agent. You know what I mean? So it's like, Lord. Now, I don't know. Maybe someone knows if this got better, if this character, survived different ages. The Bronze Age. But boy, oh boy, what a dud, I gotta say.
So I have two thoughts about all of this.
Okay.
We have made a deliberate choice not to talk about Batman and Halloween. The Long
Yes,
Halloween. I
right.
figure you guys on the chat have already read it and talked about it.
There's nothing we can say about it.
I love it. I don't think it's one of your favorites.
I did like it, and I ended up giving it to the trade paperback to my nephew. So
Okay.
it isn't that I don't have it. I personally thought the allusions to The Godfather were a little overdone, but on the other hand, I'm a big Godfather fan from way back. So part of me is like,
Yeah.
but I can totally appreciate how that. So anyway, go ahead.
Well, and those issues with the spook bring up really white collar crime, which is far more rampant than bank robberies and mobster shootouts and people doing puns and animal theme kind of things. So that leads me to my next recommendation, because there were some kids that debuted in 1968 who are of the Bronze Age, but this title is a modern take of the Bronze Age.
Okay.
And let me tell you, that dog and those meddling kids were on to crooked real estate developers who wear makeup long before the people did when they went to the polls, okay? So, yes, I am talking about Scooby-Doo Team Up by Sholly Fish.
Okay, let me add it to the stream. There we go.
Am I on the screen there?
Yeah, you're there.
All right. So we have, once again, the Phantom Stranger shows up. You notice the theme. He shows up in Justice League. He shows up in Action Comics 13. He shows up. I love the narration. The spectral curtain of the ebon night draws it down upon you, All Hallows Eve, when fright blends with delight and nothing is as it seems. And Daphne, all we all said was, which kind of candy you want? And Velma, most of our Halloween visitors just ring the doorbell and say trick or treat. It is this series, Scooby-Doo Team Up, ran from like 2013 until I think 2016, 2017. It is written by Sholly Fish, who would do Batman the Brave and the Bold and Scooby-Doo and a lot of the DC kind of youth-oriented comics. And this is so much fun. They're done in ones. And they are such a great way to introduce people to these various characters. So you can kind of see, like on this page here, there's Gentleman Ghost and Kid Eternity. And it introduces you to Deadman. And I mean, these are actually even better than the original Scooby-Doo cartoons, because they kind of make fun of the fact that, like, all we have to do is just pull their mask off.
Wow.
It is just
a riot. God.
And there, by the way, if you look in that jail cell, you'll see the spook, right? In that green thing,
yes.
right? Okay.
Oh my God.
So at one point, all the ghosts are getting kidnapped, and they have ghost bars, and they're trying to figure out what's going on, and they realize that it's the Phantom Stranger's arch nemesis, who's not the spook, but it's Tanark. He's an ancient alchemist who's lived for centuries. Wow, that's weird. Our bad guys just usually lock themselves in jail. And then, so he fights them. Deadman kind of gets into this, and then of course the Spectre shows up. Now I gotta continue this to the next issue for you for a second, because this is one of the great all-time things that happens. The Spectre shows up, and they talk about Jim Corrigan, and they introduce who he is. Deadman possesses Daphne, and Daphne suddenly becomes a butt kicker. And then look at this vengeance. I mean, the spirit of vengeance is inside Scooby-Doo.
Oh my God. I definitely need this, because who didn't love, I'm old enough to remember Scooby-Doo, its original run, if you will.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, it is one of the funnest things in the world. I mean, and then of course, there's like a nice little joke at the end with these kids and those costumes of all things, right? And Deadman and the Phantom Stranger. But the whole run, I mean, I've been reading a ton of these. I don't know if you can see the screen. Issue number 2.
No. You have to share it. You have to share it again.
Okay, am I sharing? Oh, did I? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it went away.
Oh, did it?
There we go.
Did you not see Scooby-Doo as Vengeance?
We did. We saw this.
Oh, okay. All right.
There we go.
So here we've got, I mean, and it's like classic DC, right?
Look at the Dark Knight thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the Dark Knight with the lightning. I want to point that out for a second there, right? But like Sholly Fish actually makes fun of the narration of various genres. I mean, in a city filled with crime, with monsters, someone has to stand against them. I mean, fortunately I have a partner, good dog. And then of course you realize it's a dream, right? And they're at the Mystery Analysts of Gotham City meeting. And it is like, so here you've got them talking to like Roy Raymond and, so you see, Robin and I use many cutting edge forensics techniques, Dr. 13. Really? We just usually pull off their mask. Pull off their mask, eh? I have to try that, Fred. Now this character here, I was like, who is this Miss Day? I've read all your fashion mystery novels. This is actually an allusion to Miss Tree. DC Comics used to publish Miss Tree Quarterly, written by Denny O'Neil. But it's Scooby-Doo and Ace the Bat Hound. And I mean, it's just a great way of introducing these characters. If you just love, there's the Scarecrow.
Fantastic. Oh my goodness.
The sense of humor is just wonderful. Now, I got to continue to the next issue real quickly. Let me know if the screen disappears.
It disappeared.
It disappeared?
Yeah.
So I pointed out that lightning because there's this funny joke right here.
There we go. I will add to stream. Okay. Oh.
In a city filled with crime and monsters, a dog has to stand against him. Where did that lightning come from? Gotham has strange weather. I mean, it is just...
Oh, what charm. I mean seriously.
It is amazing. Like, Sarah, you have used this phrase when you read comic books sometimes, and you've said like, oh, comic books, I love you. And I read these Scooby-Doo team-ups, and I got yet another one I got to share with you. I read these Scooby-Doo team-ups, and I just, I said out loud, I'm like, comic books, I love you. There's one here where they team up with Swamp Thing, and even the opening narration is making fun of Alan Moore. The bass note shatters the heavy stillness in the bayou, met by the rush of beating wings. They play counterpoint to the staccato slap, slap, slap of rapid leather-padded footsteps. I mean, it is making fun of comic. And like what they introduce us to Chester, who is one of Swamp Thing's supporting characters. And we find out that Chester, of course, is Shaggy's uncle.
Of course.
So I mean, it's like, thanks, Uncle Chester. Good thing we got to know you. I mean, it is just...
Oh my God. All right.
It is so much fun.
That is fantastic. Someone in the chat said we're gonna race each other to eBay to go get this stuff. So thanks, Rob.
I read them digitally. Of course, Solomon Grundy shows up. I mean, it is just this whole series. There's like one where they team up with Harley Quinn. That's amazing. They team up with Barry Allen.
Yep.
They team up with the Super Friends. I just Mr. Miracle and Big Barda. They team up with the Doom Patrol.
Wow. Oh, I love the Doom Patrol.
It is
such
a great way to introduce. Like, I actually gave my nephew a subscription to Scooby-Doo Team Up because he loves Scooby-Doo, and it's a great way to introduce people to those DC characters.
Oh my God!
I'm
writing
funny,
it down.
It's they're just great done in ones, and you'll love.
I'm all over it.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. And I'm all over the folks in the chat while we've been talking. Jesse Lynch is here, and I just have to show this for Rob. Hello, Bronze Age, nice lady, and our friend Rob. Hi, Jess. Thanks for coming, Bronze Age, nice lady. I like that. The Gray Man's here. Gray Man, hello. Thanks for joining us. It's late in merry old England, so thanks for staying up. See, Tim, the comic collector's here. Hello, Tim. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, exactly. Tim is saying what I'm thinking, which is never would have expected Batman and Phantom Stranger in a Scooby-Doo book, but it totally makes sense.
It's like slinks. Yeah.
Right. Holy cow. So yeah, Larasa needs to get some. Caleb has a great idea. They did an animated weird mystery. Oh, I would love that. They are. There is so much intellectual property in these kinds of anthologies. Boy, oh boy, someone needs to.
Well, it's funny. It's funny Caleb says that. I didn't think of an animated weird mystery series. That could be really cool. But I was thinking, so HBO had this series called Room 104.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, I'm like, why is like the House of Mystery? Like, could you imagine that? Like, you give like certain directors, like
Yep.
like kind of almost like, because HBO did Tales from the Crypt, which was the
Yep.
EC series when HBO first debuted. And now that HBO Max is trying to figure out what to do with all the DC content, I'm like, a House of Mystery series or Sinister House or whatever you want to call it. But I kind of like House of Mystery. But I feel like that should be the next kind of thing.
Well,
and you could.
I have an idea. These ideas are free, DC. This leads beautifully into my next selection. DC in 1971 came out with 2 titles that were Gothic romance. I'll make myself big here so you can take a look. The first was Dark Mansion of Forbidden Love.
I love that cover.
And here's what made these books unique. It's these are big. These are like these are 25 cent at the time, so it would have been 48 pages or something. Mm-hmm. 1 story per book.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and it's all Gothic romance. So it's primarily from the woman's perspective. And if you are digging, Emily, the Brontes and Jane Eyre and Rebecca. There's a remake of the movie and book,
on Netflix.
Rebecca on Netflix, which we watched. It's an interesting take, but Gothic romances have a lot of tropes, and so they find their way into these books. But it's a perfect match of trope and comic book. The art in these things is usually really great. And again, full-length story. So that, Dark Mansion of Forbidden Love, if HBO Max is looking for, to make an hour episode or whatever, this is issue number 2.
That could actually be kind of cool, like have it all be women writers and directors.
Yes. Hello. Again, these ideas are free. And this, women in jeopardy, they're usually, there are a lot of blondes on the run on the covers. And actually what's funny, the character in the story is blonde, but on the cover she's not. So it's like, okay, all right, fine. They're always blonde. They're usually wearing white. But that's just the beautiful, comforting trope of Gothic romance. There's always a foreboding house and mansion and a castle and a dark stranger, and a couple of these things literally have a crazy person in the attic. They're wonderful. But these only lasted 4 issues.
Really?
Yeah. So this is Dark Mansion of Forbidden Love. This is number 3, and this is number 4. So this is the last one.
No way. I didn't realize it was that short of a series, because they ended up bringing it back just recently, right? Dead Man.
Well, I'm going to show you what they did. So they've the 4-issue run of this, where it's all one story. 52 big pages, all one story. So that's the end of Dark Mansion of Forbidden Love. And then there was another title at the same time called The Sinister House of Secret Love.
Okay.
Same kind of thing. Full book stories, Gothic romance. This is number 2. I have fallen in deep like with these kinds of books. And I actually found issue number 1 of this on the eBay, and I'll be getting it sometime this coming week. I was bummed that I didn't have it for today's live dive, but I just fall into them. It's
yeah, you've been posting a lot of great covers on your Instagram channel.
Well, the folks at Instagram, the community there was like challenging everybody to post for Halloween month. So that's why everybody is coming up with amazing books and covers. And so it's been going on for a month, and it is a blast to see everybody's collection. So this is Sinister House of Secret Love number 3. And a big difference in, and by the way, the thing I want to mention about this, there's the stories by Frank Robbins, the guy who gave us Man Bat.
Yeah.
And did a bunch of Batman stories. And he does great. And Alex Toth does the art in these things. There's some amazing gems that can be found in these books. And then the last issue of the Sinister House of Secret Love, they changed up the cover design a little bit. Still Blonde on the Run, yay. But still a great story, a full-length, novel for the comic book. It's one of those things where it's like, how you just want to sink in and spend an hour with the comic and just block out the rest of the world. You could totally do it with these stories, with these books. So what happened to these books, you say? So each of them only lasted 4 issues. The Dark Mansion of Forbidden Love turned into Forbidden Tales of the Dark Mansion.
Okay.
So it wasn't necessarily aimed at Gothic romance. It was still had those elements, but shorter stories, 2 or 3, per issue. And then
It also seems like it was kind of capitalizing a little bit on at the time, Dark Shadows would have been running as a daily soap opera.
Well, what I didn't realize was that Dark Shadows, somebody had said on the internets, and they were smarter than me. It's like DC was always late to the game because Dark Shadows was ending. Here, let me bring you back. Dark Shadows was ending in 1971 when they started putting these things out. So it's like, God, you guys, really. So in one sense, it's not surprising that, it kind of went kaput because they were just late to the game. So Sinister House of Secret Love turned into The Secrets of Sinister House. Again, one of my favorite Blondes on the Run covers. With that.
So it's funny, they actually brought that title back last year. I had never heard of Sinister House, but they brought that title back last year with a Halloween special. And I love the masthead. I love the little haunted house logo. And this is the Vampire Batman, which was sort of an Elseworlds thing. And I will say that I buy this kind of stuff and then I usually throw it over in a pile to give to my nephews or niece. But I actually kept this one for a couple of reasons. There's 2 good stories in here. There's Paul Dini, who loves Zatanna. Yep. Paul Dini created Harley Quinn, and they check into like a clown motel that's possessed by ghosts. And it's like, these are short stories. They're almost too short in my personal opinion. But they're kind of like, if you're scared of clowns, they're actually, and I'm not, but if you're scared of clowns, they're scary as hell. It's remarkable. I mean, but then what's great is there's a Martian Manhunter story in here. There's a Detective Chimp story, Detective Chimp versus Mr. Mixel-Pitalik.
Yeah.
And then there's this one story here. The other story that I kept this for, it is, it starts off as kind of your Gothic mansion story, kind of very traditional to Secrets of Sinister House, right? I mean, look at that first panel. Again, you couldn't get away with this. There's this, it's like, oh, we'll make this a media entertainment room. And it's like, okay, well, that's where the sacrifices were. And there's this little girl that moves in with her parents. And for a while there, she's like, oh, I'm so scared to move into my new house. And for a while there, she has like an imaginary friend, of course, but the imaginary friend is, coming through the walls. But at one point, the house is on fire, and she's like, Mommy, Daddy, my best friend told me, he told me what to do. Wake up. My best friend told me what to do. And so you think the ghost is the imaginary friend, and you realize later that it's Dead Man.
Hey.
And Dead Man saves the day by being a little girl with imaginary friend. I don't know why. It's just like, it's one of those quick short stories that I just loved. And some of the other stories are kind of forgettable. I'm still flipping through this, and like, there's a John Constantine story, there's a Green Lantern story, But they brought back, and I had never heard of Sinister House until I saw this, because they sometimes bring these things back so they can keep the IP, the copyright, they don't want it to fall out like Captain Marvel did.
And I think that's probably what drove that Dead Man run, which I forgot to bring down from the attic of that. Which I thought was a good live
dive. We talked about it in our Pride live dive. So
so it's totally worth it to check out. So I mean, we've the mystery books, my recent collecting has, I'm surprised at how many I've added to the collection in the last 5-7 years, because I just like them. They're a lot of fun, and the art is usually really strong. So are the covers. The stories are, when sometimes you're sick of the moralizing that Superman can do, it's like, how about a ghost? How are some ghosts? So, well, Rob, I think we did it. I think
we have
covered everything.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for stopping by. I toast to you. My friend Rob and I have been talking about other live dives that we're going to do. We'll probably be back in a few weeks with an episode of My Friend Rob brings SHBAB into the 21st century relative to Superman. So we do have something we want to talk about. And so we will be back. But thank you all for joining us, and have a wonderful Halloween. Try not to scare too many little kids, but a few is good enough, I think.
And drop your ballots off.
And vote. So thanks, everybody. Just drop them off. Just, do your duty and, get your steps in. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mastodon. It was a good time here on the live dive. Well, we have a ball with all of you too. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.